to the Four Hauntsmen. This is our second episode. We're here with Nathan.
Hello.
Drew.
What up, what up?
And Paul.
Hey, hey.
And this is Kyle. I can't believe, guys, we're back for a second episode.
I really didn't think we were going to be here.
We got renewed.
Yeah, they liked us. We did a pilot episode. But speaking of people liking it, the feedback was very positive. And, we saw some really great comments from folks, both on social media as well as on the YouTube version of the podcast, and even on the subscription page on iTunes. I was surprised people left a review out there. So
I didn't
the
see
feedback's
that.
been great.
Cool.
What? We got a review on iTunes?
Yeah.
That's
It's
awesome.
incredible. So, some of the feedback to date said it was interesting to bring the audiences together. It felt like four guys hanging out and shooting the breeze about haunts. The conversation wasn't dominated by one person. And it looks like, at least on YouTube, we've got some subscribers happening already, which it's funny because that was kind of like an afterthought, to throw it up there. And we've got some views happening there. And I don't know, Paul, if you know how we're doing with how the cast is, progressing on iTunes or Stitcher or these other areas. I think we pretty much have it everywhere at this point.
Yeah, I mean, we are all over the place. If I'm being honest, I didn't turn on the metrics the first day we released, so I don't know how that first day did, but since then, we've done very well. Thank you, everyone, for subscribing, listening, from all our various sources. It seems like the biggest ones obviously being YouTube and iTunes, but actually, that would be really beneficial for me and for us if you guys kind of like tweet at us at Four Hauntsmen, or leave comments at IoMGeek.com or on YouTube or pretty much anywhere. Contact us some way, somehow. Let us know how you listen to our podcast, because it would be great to know kind of where everyone comes from. It seems like it's mostly iTunes and YouTube, but kind of interesting to see where people come from.
Also, at Nathan's Hot Dogs now, they have a contact us section.
Yeah.
Nathan.
How did that 4th of July contest go, Nathan?
Pretty good. We're counting the votes right now.
Oh my God. So, I'm at the gym on July 5th, right? And they show the Nathan's hot dog. They show your hot dog eating contest, Nathan, on TV while I'm at the gym, and I'm watching like the people shove the hot dogs down their throat. Like, oh my God, this is horrifying.
Got to dip it in the water, man. Make it nice.
I was
and
waiting
soggy.
for you to say that reminding you of, like, where do I come in all that story?
Shoving Nathan down the gullet.
It was the poor Snapchat hot dogs family. They're all gone.
So I think we wanted probably to kick off with a little Halloween Horror Nights talk, although there's not a tremendous amount of updates out there at this point. I kind of tweeted out earlier this week that it would be funny if they never announced a single thing again until we reached the employee preview, which I couldn't see that happening because everyone has kind of big mouths when it comes time to do their warm-ups, and get folks in gear for their scares. But I'm not minding the lack of updates. I don't know how you guys feel.
I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't mind the lack of updates because I've already decided I'm going to go. I would mind it if I was on the fence, because for as long as I've been going to Horror Nights, other than the first year I went, I've kind of waited to see what the theme is before I book my trip. And so if I was on the fence or wasn't sure, then I'd be like, all right, like the longer I wait, it's going to cost more for everything. So I get it. I get the frustration, but I also see, I see both sides. Like now that I know I'm going, I'm okay. Like I don't care. I spoiler free. But if I hadn't bought my tickets and I was like, well, let me see what houses they have this year, because it may be, Penn and Teller and, like stuff that I'm not interested in, then I'd be, hesitant. Then I'd be a little bit frustrated.
It doesn't bother me per se from their standpoint, but I think the reactions to it from other people is what's really annoying me now. I mean, I was talking to Kyle about this today, but people that, I mean, let's be real here. If you searched for the rumored list for the event, it's not hard to find it at this point of what the rumored IPs and the original houses and even some of the scare zones are. But then there's people that don't want to just like sites that are trying to report this news, but they don't want to get on Universal's bad side. So instead of just outright saying that, they try and make it like as if they're speculating and coming up with clues and, you know, taking things from point A to point B that are just, I mean, it's a stretch. And we're getting to the point where, I mean, it's what's today, July 13th. At this point last year, we had known so much stuff about the event, and this year we know nothing. So, I mean, this is like old school. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we know two things, but in the scope of the event, we know not a lot. So, people are just losing their minds, and that's what's driving me crazy. It's just how the fans of Horror Nights are the best and the worst at the same time.
So, you know, we talked about this last time, that Kyle and I work for the same organization. Nonprofit. Yeah, we work for the same nonprofit, right? And so Kyle has been delicate about not giving me a hard time. But I bought into the hype of these stupid rumors, right? Where they're like, there's going to be a big reveal this Wednesday. There's going to be a big reveal this Wednesday. I worked from home. I worked at home that day just in case it was a big freaking event, so that I could like be available to record a video or talk about it or some type of stuff. And you know, of course there was nothing.
Come on, man.
I know. I will not.
You know what? Here, the best is tell them what you thought the reveal was, or at that particular moment.
Oh wait, which one? What? No.
Yeah, because Paul had pinged me in the morning and said, "You saw the thing about the Harry Potter reveal for Halloween Horror Nights?
Oh,
They're going to announce it today at like 2:00 or something." So I was like, "What?"
Wow. The Death Eaters thing. Like, oh my god! Like, I'm not. You know, it's because someone read
articles
5 digits in a code. What'd you say, Nathan?
I was like, those Onion articles are the worst.
That's what it's come down to. I mean, God bless people. I mean, everyone's, obviously allowed to think what they want and do what they want. I think there's a struggle to be first. There's such a glut at, within, the quote unquote expert category or people that are being looked to for sources here, so that everyone wants to be the first to try to push something out.
Here's my opinion on everything. It's kind of a two-part thing, but one, this year I'm having a really good streak going into things with really low expectations and coming out okay. Number one being the Mummy movie. I was kicking and screaming the entire time. I loved it. But with this, I think there's a reason there's no real big announcements. I think they already showed their hand as far as, the top tier go. I think Shining and American Horror Story, I think that's it as far as like super huge IPs go.
I think that's all they have to show. They have their title card to be able to push out there and get people interested in maybe buying tickets initially, the first wave. They win the award every year. They're the biggest. They're the best. I've always said, the difference between them and other haunts is that they're slick. People are going to go to Halloween Horror Nights because it's the thing. So they push out American Horror Story. People love American Horror Story. I still have not seen one single episode.
It's good.
I'm sorry for all of the listeners that are going to say, like, well, how could that possibly be? It's a little tough to fit in TV time, and when I do, it's King of Queens, so or hockey or baseball.
Oh, that house was on the rumored list also.
They're having the Kevin Wait scare zone.
Yeah, that's the super house, the big house this year. The mega house.
The big UPS truck in the middle of New York Street right now. Breaking confirmed.
But people, I think like Drew said, there's people that are looking at pictures and reading into like the every last word in a text and an ad, and I think I'm numb at this point. I think that's probably the consensus of what we're getting here as well. I mean, you go onto the Halloween Horror Nights website. I don't know anything of what's taking place. We're talking about soul collectors. And everyone's, logging in because in the past we did the same thing for Jack. And some people got rewarded. Wink, wink. Some people, Universal, I'm looking at you. I'm not one of the few chosen folks.
I went.
For any of the extra celebration pieces, but and I don't know. The other day it was up to like 20,000 something people that I think that had registered their email address. I mean, basically, Universal has done a fantastic job at collecting email addresses so that if they wanted to, they could resell your stuff to every spam bot in the universe at this point. But outside of it, the Soul Collectors piece, I mean, I see everybody tweeting about it. I still don't know a lot about it myself. What do you guys think?
I have no idea outside of what I read, but it's obviously Evil Dead confirmation right there. I mean, if anything, maybe a new icon.
I think it's not so much an icon, but I think it's going to be like the minions of an icon are going to be like the Soul Collectors. Like, I don't know if you guys remember back at like Horror Nights 22, there was the skull characters, the Iniquitous, that were on the stilts and everything.
Yeah.
They were pretty cool. I think that the rumor was that there was going to be some kind of like Lady Death as the main icon. I could see Lady Death, but having these, Soul Collector characters being like her henchmen is kind of like what I think. And like we're being recruited to be one of those henchmen type of deal. That's my opinion on the matter.
Can you imagine if there was 4 of them? I'm just saying. We might be sitting on bronze right now.
Universal.
So the Soul Collectors thing, and I know everyone's kind of got hyped about it, right? For me, it basically just feels like the next Jack's Maniacs or whatever it was last year with Chance. It's just, you're signing up for the email list and the potential to be on that. I say the potential to be on that social media gathering, but, we'll see. 20,000 deep, good luck. But, there was a lot of hype about the little trailer thing. There were some images in there that were clearly teasers for certain things. It was a little bit. It's a little teaser, right? I mean, it feels like something that should have happened like 3 months ago, if it's just a teaser, but I'll take it.
Yeah, I don't know what to make out of anything. I think because people make so much out of nothing, it's difficult to make some of your own uninfluenced, decisions or speculation about like what things could be. I think, the honest truth, I'm going to shoot here a little bit, is the little preview that they have of like the person's head coming up with the hands and everything. It looks like every other year of Halloween Horror Nights. Like every trailer is just kind of generic at this point to me. If you were to go back and look at these things or shuffle the deck and not have the pieces tied to them, you probably couldn't tell the difference of like what year some of these things are from.
It's almost like Howl-O-Scream vibes so far. It just doesn't really feel like Halloween Horror Nights type teases that we're getting just yet.
Yeah, but going back to the last 2 summers, it seemed like they were predominant huge IPs, and they were able to trickle them out every few weeks, one after another. That's why I keep going back to, I think The Shining, American Horror Story are really their biggest. I'm sure they have a couple other IPs, but nowhere near on the same level as those 2, or like in the past,
I think
Halloween, all these other ones.
There's one more that I think they're going to focus on in the marketing, and it's not really something that people are thinking much about. I think, personally, that if the rumor is true that The Purge is coming back as a scare zone, it's going to be one of the focuses because it is a popular property.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing rumors of Saw, right? But there hasn't actually been a trailer for that new Saw movie yet either, so they could be waiting on some of that too. This
Jigsaw, Paul.
Jigsaw.
That's the Dracula Untold of this year.
Yeah.
That's the marketing playhouse.
Well, the Hollywood guy was every Comic-Con, he seems to be there and announcing another maze when they announce a certain horror movie. If they announce Jigsaw next week at Comic-Con, I'm just saying.
Yeah, true.
Jigsaw for Icon. Yay.
Well, not for an icon, but just I'm saying like for the maze, because the movie comes out the 27th of October.
Yeah, because Lionsgate does have something at Comic-Con, so they could be waiting for some of that. One of our viewers actually asked a question after the first episode that asked if Halloween Horror Nights has run out of decent IPs to use from the existing IPs. I don't know. I think that's a pretty decent question, because would there be like a dream house or an IP that you guys think hasn't been used that you like to see them used? I struggle to think of one.
Oh, wait, you're struggling to think of any that they haven't done yet?
Yeah, that I would like to see that they haven't done yet.
I'm going to throw this out there, and I say it every year, but Treehouse of Horror.
Oh, yeah.
I've asked, I don't know if Mike's going to listen to the podcast, but I've asked that of Mike like every year during every media event for Halloween Horror Nights.
Yeah, they can't make it scary. How do you make a three-dimensional?
No, I mean, I think that he'd be totally into it. It's not a universal thing. It's an IP thing of Fox or whoever, like the Simpsons ownership is not down for it. They're looking at how their characters are being portrayed. So that's the answer that we've gotten every year.
I mean, I get I think the logistics of doing the Treehouse of Horror is what makes it difficult. Because you'd have to have the characters and the costumes
and cost.
Like
yeah, and cost is huge.
Yeah,
yep.
I mean, I get how difficult that would be to put on, but quite frankly, I think it would be worth it. I really do. Even if they just made it a scare zone in the Simpsons land and just had, the characters walking around in different different costumes from, inspired by different things. Yeah. Just inspired by, of the different Treehouse of Horrors, like the doll, the Homer doll and stuff like that. Or
your best case scenario would probably just be just an overlay for the ride. A new video. They could plug it in every year at Halloween Horror Nights in both coasts.
Cool.
I think that's the easiest way you can do it, and then just fill the land with the Treehouse of Horror music, and there you go. Simple fix. But as far as that IP question goes, I don't necessarily think they'll ever run out. I mean, yeah, they're going to run out of the big names. Of course, that's going to happen. There's some that they may just never get, and then there's some that they're going to use and put on the back burner for another time. But, let's look at something like Krampus from last year. That may have not have been a big property that's going to bring people in, but some properties just translate well to Halloween Horror Nights, whereas others, like The Exorcist, are huge properties, and they just don't translate as well.
Yeah.
So there's a bridge there where, something like Saw is a popular property 10 years ago, but you can see why they would want to bring something like that in.
I think it's also subjective too, though, right?
Well,
I mean, because
those
some people
are easier to get, because you look at a lot of these, they get them when they have a new movie coming out or a remake. It's easier to get the license. The studio is more likely to let them do it because it's marketing for them.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, then you look at something older like The Exorcist or The Shining. I mean, well, The Shining was probably a nightmare to get, but some of them they could probably get dirt cheap. But I mean, what do they have? Like Halloween. I mean, that's the producer that died. His son took over, so I mean, I'm sure he's just
we'll do it. That's fine.
Coming next year, Halloween remake starring The Rock.
Well, there is like a reboot coming out next year, I think. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Michael Myers again next year.
Yeah.
I would, I'm kind of bummed that The Mummy wasn't a bigger hit, because I would have liked to have seen some type of Mummy presence in the park since it's the start of the Dark Universe. They could have continued that presence and eventually made it the theme of Halloween Horror Nights. Eventually, 5 years down the line when they've released more movies.
It still could happen.
I'm surprised they're not doing it simply because they have all the stuff from Tomb of the Ancients last year.
Yeah, fair point.
You just repurpose it, I'm pretty surprised, but
It didn't really
I guess
take place in a tomb.
Well, a generic mummy house with the characters in it.
A lot of it had like that tomb type stuff.
Towards the end, I mean, they probably could have used like New York or the outside of Potter, but that would never happen. I would have loved to have like a mummy house based on the movie. I'd be totally fine with that.
I think, just to wrap the running out of decent IP thing, I also, again, I think it's subjective what the decent IP is.
Of course.
You know, I know probably all of us are somewhat down on Saw or thinking, you know, like, well, who's going to want to necessarily pay? Like, who is it bringing in? But on the other hand, you know, if they were to introduce Chucky, and I said this before half jokingly, I think in the first week, but if Chucky was somehow injected in the event, I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, we've had a video that has over 11 million hits because of Chucky's involvement in it. People legit click on that video because of the thumbnail with Chucky in it and because they want to see Chucky and his bride. And that's, again, subjective. Most people, if you were to tell them, like, oh, dude, they're coming out with a Chucky house, you'd be like, oh, God, like, who wants that? But it's everybody's personal flavor. Like, you know, what do they want to see? A lot of people want to see American Horror Story. I couldn't care less about it.
Agreed. But funny point that I found out this week is that, you know, there's the rumored Blumhouse mashup house, and Blumhouse now has the rights to Chucky.
That would be amazing. Because
they're releasing like a whole big box set of all the movies on Blu-ray this October. So
did you guys see the trailer for the new one, The Cult of Chucky?
Yeah.
Dude, that looks great. I love the Chucky films, and I really liked the last one, so I'm totally on board for this one.
Now that I said that, like when they let the media like come through and film 2 houses or whatever, like everybody in the mother's going to film Chucky and hopefully like put it out like Chucky's going to give me 11 million hits on my channel. But anyway, there is construction in the streets starting to happen. So some of the rooftops are getting prepped. I saw some of our friends in theme park Twitter land and theme park land altogether, media land, have posted photos about the lighting and the structures that are being put up. So
it's happening.
Yeah, we're legit like 2 months out. It's good stuff.
Crazy.
One thing to think of, you know, I think Paul touched on this before, as far as you know, whether IPs are drying up or not. Is there a dream house that somebody would want to see out there? What's not been done that you would like to see?
The House of Horror.
Anyone who knows me or has listened to Orlando United / Inside Universal knows that I would kill for a Jason X house. That is the one movie that I would love to see come to life.
You may actually have to kill somebody for that.
I might consider it.
Yeah, for me, I you know, I'd like to see a return to like music houses in Halloween Horror Nights. Very much the unpopular opinion, but I don't want to see something in like a 3D house. I mean, there's so many artists out there now that I think you could partner with that would bring a lot of people in. We just saw Avenged Sevenfold last week, open for Metallica. I mean, the logos and the graphics that Halloween Horror Nights uses to begin with, I have the Halloween Horror Nights webpage up. I mean, the skull looks like it's something out of Avenged Sevenfold's repertoire to begin with. I think, you know, if you had put a house up from them or from like Metallica, I'm still, you know, cursing the day that we didn't get the Black Sabbath house here, or, you know, have Rob Zombie go to town, or Maria Brink from In This Moment. I'd love to see a house based off of those. Who?
I saw all those.
Oh, okay. I think you said you wanted an Insane Clown Posse.
Yes, Dreamhouse, Dark Carnival.
3D.
Yes.
No, I Black Sabbath was like the last one I saw in California. I think in my lifetime I've done, 3 or 4 different Rob Zombie mazes. Not even all at Universal. I'm going to go with Dreamhouse being Dead Space, the video game. Done.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. That's a cool idea.
Mm-hmm.
And if it meant we got a new video game, I'd be good with that too.
Would it be interactive?
No, not like the Resident Evil house, but Dead Space is a video game, but it's really kind of it's almost like The Thing and Alien put together. Imagine like all the monsters from The Thing, but in the location of the first Alien, like the Nostromo, basically.
It's
a great game.
Was the Resident Evil house interactive?
No, it was just very bad.
That was one of the years I missed.
There was a lot of eye candy to it, Paul. Like, I liked looking at everything around because it felt like you were kind of in the game, but it just... I mean, it's not... my biggest complaint about Halloween Horror Nights is that it's not scary. I mean, that house was definitely not scary.
No.
Yeah.
But if you played the games, like especially Resident Evil 2, you could see a lot of the little details, but the one thing I hated more than anything was Nemesis was probably like somebody that weighed maybe 120 pounds and 5'9", and they just kind of put shoulder pads on him, and he was above you with the Gatling gun. But other than that, I mean, you looked around, you saw the typewriter, a little box of ammo, the herbs everywhere. I thought it was cool.
One of my excuses for it is I always said that I think that it might have been intentionally kind of corny, because if you put on a PlayStation 1 and you played Resident Evil 1 and 2, it's obviously doesn't hold up.
No.
So I don't know if that was the intention of it, but that was my theory on it.
I mean, you could even do, I'm going to go ahead and say it only because there's another game coming out, but Until Dawn, I mean,
I just downloaded it last night.
It's free this month, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
PlayStation.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's a fun, I mean, it's not like an action game. It's a choose your own adventure, but the story, it's got a good twist in it, and I honestly think that could turn into a house easily.
You know, you just brought up a fun point. Choose your own adventure. One of the best haunts that we went to last year, Nathan and myself, we went to Screamageddon, and there was a house based off the prison that it's almost like people would not follow the same path through the house because there were multiple ways to go in the house. I mean, that would be something fun to see at Halloween Horror Nights.
It would have to be an pay upgrade. No way in hell would that ever work.
Yeah.
I mean, look at last year when they tried having the branching paths in Tomb of the Ancients, and eventually they just cut it off.
That lasted like a week.
Yeah, it will never work with that many people. It would have to be small groups, contained, kind of how Screamageddon was.
It's true.
Yeah.
Hey, Paul, how about you, Dreamhouse?
I don't know. Like, there have been so many that have already happened. Like The Thing clearly would have been one, and then it happened, and I didn't really like it.
The other Thing house was amazing from 17.
Yes, yeah.
The remake one was not so amazing.
And then there was the rumor for The Thing out in California this year, but apparently that got scrapped.
Yeah, I mean, of course, there are like low budget or lower grade horror films that I would love to see, but they're not going to do like some of my direct to DVD stuff that I love, or foreign horror. It'd be cool to see like a J horror, like like a Ring or a Grudge or a combination thereof, or something inspired by that. But I guess
you'd have to stop before all of the haunts, and somebody would have like a placard up underneath there with the translation of what's happening.
Exactly, a subtitle. But for what it's worth, I think one of the years that I missed was I think it was, I guess it was the year 12 was when it was at Islands of Adventure, or one of the years it was at Islands of Adventure, and they had a scare zone themed to Carnage, the Spider-Man villain Carnage.
Yeah.
And it would be pretty sweet if they were able to use that license in some capacity during Horror Nights. Maybe not necessarily a Return of Carnage, but a Blade house or a Morbius house, or any of those, kind of incorporating any of the Marvel Werewolf by Night or any of those characters, or all those characters into one, Ghost Rider or something. See what I'm saying? Like, just kind of like incorporating the Marvel Supernatural characters into a haunted house. I would dig the hell out of that.
That would be cool.
They should. They totally call the writer for the Hulk and get on that. Whoever redid the coaster.
Yeah, good point. I like that idea.
What about like Casper or Little Hot Stuff?
Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I'd be all about it.
Those are not
Goosebumps.
I like the TV show Sabrina. I love that cat. I can't remember the cat's name.
Wasn't the cat
Are
Salem?
you afraid of the dark?
Salem. That's right. He would always talk. That was the best. I wonder if Salem's still alive. He might be in the animal show at Universal.
Him and Frank the Pug are BFFs.
All right. Moving on to Howl-O-Scream. We've got a couple of Howl-O-Scream thoughts for both Tampa and Busch Gardens. I'm sorry, Busch Gardens, Williamsburg.
And Busch Gardens.
Yeah.
So the Busch Gardens Williamsburg stuff is pretty quick. While we are recording this, Busch Gardens Williamsburg released on their Facebook page. They had a Facebook Live video where they announced that, usually the opening night is the first weekend of the event. I will tell you, the first Friday of the event is typically the best night to go. Probably not because I just told you, but the first Friday is just perfect. I always go then. They kind of consider it a preview night. It's not as crowded. This year they're making it a pass member preview night, which is pretty sweet, so it'll be even less crowded. That'll occur on September 22nd. But the big news, they announced two big things today, which is one, their longest running haunted house, which is called Bitten, which if you've been to Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, is all the way in the back of the park. They have kind of a facility back there that has always been converted to this vampire haunted house. I shouldn't say always, but it's been a good 7 years, if not more, that they've been doing this Bitten house. That they are finally retiring that house, which was inspired by Dracula. They even played the music from Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula in the house while you walk through it. I always enjoyed it. I mean, it was the same house every year. But they also announced that they are doing a house called, I think, Frostbite is the name of it. But what'll make it different is that it's actually going to be inside of a dark ride. I guess they're shutting down the dark ride for the duration of Halloween Howl-O-Scream, and they are converting it into a dark ride. They said, you'll actually be going down where the cars would normally go. You'll be walking through the castle. It is Busch Gardens step up ride. It's Busch Gardens Disney type ride with amazing theming and awesome exterior things like that. And they're converting it into a haunt called Frostbite. So that's a pretty interesting thing. I'm kind of interested in seeing how that turns out.
Well, the cold never bothered me anyway, Paul.
So, well, you guys down in Tampa, you guys got a couple of announcements, didn't you?
Yeah, so in the Tampa Busch Gardens, we have 2 houses announced so far, and I know some people were bemoaning the fact that some of the houses, obviously they're repeats from last year, but that's kind of the MO for Busch Gardens, right? You normally get the bulk of things repeated and then maybe like 1 or 2 new houses a year. But the 2 houses that were announced were very popular from the last 2 years. They were the best houses that were created for the last 2 years, in my opinion. One was Unearthed. That was announced today. So that was the Icon house from 2 years ago. They brought that back last year also, although the Icon was not in the house last year. So it was kind of odd just walking through that one walkway where the Icon was 2 years ago, and it was just empty last year. But that house is, it's legit scary. It's a great house.
Is that the one that it was like a dig site when you're walking to it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, luckily they still haven't torn down their roller coaster that it's built in, so it's still there. And that's kind of the premise. Like, they were supposed to be tearing down that roller coaster. I think it's Gwazi, right?
Yep.
The little wooden coaster.
Because I used to call it guano.
And they unearth this, this evil that's underground. I love the house. The first room that you walk in is one of my favorites. There's like a stuffed dog off to the side. That's the MVP of the event to me. You laugh at that ridiculous prop, and there's other stuff that's jumping out at you. So I do love that house. Plus, it takes pictures of you in the house, which is something I think the Halloween Horror Nights has really been missing out on to date. You could buy your picture as you're getting the crap scared out of you as you walk through one of the areas. The other house that they announced that's coming back is Motel Hell. Mm-hmm. And, to me, out of any of the haunts that we went to last year, Florida-based, that was the MVP. That was the house of the year. I loved Motel Hell. I'd give it a 6 out of 5. That was my favorite house to go through. Nathan, what did you think?
I liked it a lot. Trying to remember everything at Howl-O-Scream. That was definitely my top 3, but I feel like that one where it's like a zombie mortuary.
Yeah, I love that house too. I'm not sure if that'll be back this year because I think they're building like an encasement for that Mousetrap roller coaster that's over in that area, and that house is kind of based off to the side of that. I'm hoping it is because Zombie Mortuary is one of my favorites. It's very confined space.
Oh yeah,
very scary. Very pitch black.
That Motel Hell, and then whatever one I kept dropping my drink in. So we went on back to back. The Bayou or
Bayou House.
Yeah, that one. So I'd say those 3. But the Motel Hell, it definitely had the best theming, especially when you're walking up to it. It was a pretty long house too.
Yeah, I love you go through. It's basically like going through a hotel. I mean, you go through the swimming pool area where there's there's scares in there, that area. It was really exceptionally done, especially for when you're expecting at Howl-O-Scream like something's going to be a little bit less glossy. But those were the two houses that were announced. We've heard rumors that there'll be one or two new houses this year, so waiting for the additional information. The other stuff that got announced for Howl-O-Scream, some of the pricing is up, not all of the pricing for the event. They have a really ridiculously cheap price. I know I've been Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. The Howl-O-Scream is included in the base ticket price, but here, I think the bang for your buck is usually pretty awesome to begin with. But right now, until mid-August, you can get a ticket to Howl-O-Scream for just $30. So it's $29.99, and the deal's good until the middle of August. But that does not include like the package deals, which I would recommend myself. I know Nathan did that last year with us, and the package deals, you get kind of like a front of the line access for a certain amount of time, a buffet meal that includes like beverages, etc., and you get to watch the dinner show before Fiends, which is kind of like their version of Bill and Ted's, before the regular crowds get in. So the rides are open during the event. I can't stress enough how much I love Howl-O-Scream. If I lived closer to the Tampa area, I'd probably go to Howl-O-Scream more than I would go to Halloween Horror Nights.
Plus, there's Manus Busch everywhere.
Manus Busch is for real.
They probably had one scare zone where it was basically kind of a kid's playground, but there was like all these dolls hung from the trees or like kids being hung.
That was super cool.
It was really, that whole event was just a lot darker than Horror Nights. I see like Horror Nights is gorier. This one was just dark, like in tone.
And there is Manus Busch. There's Manus garbage can. There's Manus everywhere.
I gotta say, I've always been a fan of the Busch Gardens Tampa Howl-O-Scream. If you can, I recommend going with their, how Halloween Horror Nights has their, what is the behind the scene, or the VIP one? Is it just called VIP? Or RIP tours?
In Halloween Horror Nights, it's RIP. I think in Busch Gardens, it's just VIP.
Totally worth it at Busch Gardens. It's a whole experience. It is, when I did it, and keep in mind, I did it like a while back, but it was like a whole experience where even the drink stops were like private drink stops themed to zombie safe houses. It was just a whole thing. Even the gathering area was kind of like themed to like a camp where survivors of a zombie apocalypse would gather, and they had a scare actor dressed as a zombie in a cage. Like, it was a whole different experience, which was pretty sweet. And to Nathan's point about the event being darker, I really feel that's very true about Howl-O-Scream. One of my favorite icons, they had sisters that were conjoined twins, and they pried themselves apart and then became serial killers of men. They would sleep with men and then kill them, and that was like one of their themes. That was one of their icons one year, and I'm like, okay, I'm totally digging this. So they definitely seem to get away with a little bit more as far as viciousness at that park.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna die, what a better way?
Yeah, than twins, right?
Going out in a blaze of glory.
All right, so moving on from Howl-O-Scream, Universal Monster Steelbooks.
Oh boy, I'll make this fast. So, Alex Ross, who's probably one of the most renowned. He's a painter, but he does primarily comic book covers, sometimes comics, very photorealistic. For the last year, he's been teasing these Universal Classic Monster prints and being unveiled at Comic-Con. They just announced the prices. Each one is $595. So I was also told tonight at Red Lobster by my wife I'm not getting any of them. So if you still wanted them but don't want to pay that, Best Buy is they're going to have the exclusive Steelbook versions of each movie, and they're selling them individually. There's 7 in total. Right now they're $20 a piece for pre-order. September 12th is when they're shipping.
But what?
I recommend
Closer to time.
Do it now.
Closer to time though, that stuff's gonna. There will probably have a sale closer to time.
They'll probably drop the price a few bucks, but their last few Steelbooks, after episode 7, the Kylo Ren Steelbook came out. These things have been like impossible for me to find at release. I had to have my mother-in-law grab me the Rogue.
It depends on what it is. I know that the Marvel ones, from my experience, like when Thor 2 came out, it was like really limited the amount of steelbooks they had. But then there's releases like Force Awakens, and now apparently Fate of the Furious came out with a steelbook this week, and there's like tons of them.
Yeah,
so it really just it goes on a case by case basis.
Well, these being 7 total, I can't see them overstocking them, and plus not really being in demand. I went and pre-ordered them, but if you already own the Blu-rays or the DVDs, you're like, I don't really want the steelbooks. These come with the digital copies of each movie as well. So
where are they available, Nathan?
Just Best Buy, only at Best Buy.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I mean, it's interesting because last year all of the Universal Monster movies were re-released at Walmart. So I wonder if they're like just being cyclical and going from big box to big box.
Yeah, probably. So the 7 are Bride of Frankenstein, Wolfman, Creature, Invisible Man, Dracula, and The Mummy.
Yep.
So $20 a piece currently. Just go to bestbuy.com and you can pre-order them.
And if the price lowers between now and then, or it's on sale the week that it comes out, you do get the lower price as well. So
yeah.
So
and this is not a sponsored.
No,
I wish. But what we will do is, closer to time, we'll remind you guys.
And then the other product piece that I think I wanted to just talk through real quick was Fright Rags. I've bought a bunch of shirts from Fright Rags in the past. I think probably all of us have shopped at Fright Rags. They have really awesome horror T-shirts. Again, not a sponsored ad here for them at all. They don't know that we're talking about them. They have a really amazing Predator limited edition mask and T-shirt box set that was up for pre-order. Now they're up, whatever's left to be available for just purchase through the site. They have 2 different versions of the mask. And I apologize because I'm not up on all of my Predator goodness here, but one is like the standard Predator and one is the white Predator. But it comes in like the old school, like Ben Cooper type box, with you used to get Halloween costumes, in before there was like a Spirit Halloween or anything like that. And each of these things is limited to just a couple hundred or a few hundred things. I know, we had that awesome house, or awesome to some folks, Alien versus Predator a couple of years ago. And I think everyone's kind of like pined over the fact that they'd rather have a standalone Alien house or a Predator house. But in the meantime, this is kind of like my pick. I think it's super cool. If you collect the horror stuff, it's a cool item.
I have a Trick or Treat, Sam from Trick or Treat, from Fright Rags that I bought. That's the same thing, done in the old school Halloween costume type box. It's got a Sam mask and a T-shirt. So I love those packages. They have one of the boxes looks like a Topps baseball card variant or trading card variant for the Predator thing. So yeah, I might have to pick up one of them. They're not cheap, but they are sweet looking. So one thing we didn't talk about earlier, we mentioned the Soul Collectors, but before we wrap up, I do want to mention that, there is a countdown on that Soul Collectors clock to August 3rd.
Yes.
So, I believe, if we're going by our 2-week clock, we will be recording at least one episode before then. But we if anything new comes out before then, of course, we'll let you know. Otherwise, we will definitely, keep an eye out for August 3rd. But until then, anything else you guys want to chat about?
How about plugs? Has anybody got something that's going on that they want to mention? Mr. Drubov?
I have a TeePublic store that has some Halloween Horror Nights designs. The URL is teepublic.com/user/Drubov, DRUBOV. And if you hit me up on Twitter, it's one of the pinned tweets on my Twitter, so you can check it out. But there's a few Halloween Horror Nights designs I think some people might dig.
Inspired by.
Yeah. Loosely inspired by.
There's a really cool HHN Bear shirt. So if anybody played along with HHN Bear 2 years ago, that shirt is out there.
I think my favorite is the Vamp 55 one because it's so simple and it really looks pretty authentic.
It's cool.
Yeah, man.
And Paul, anything?
Yeah, sure. Just we talked about this on the first show, but check me out, youtube.com/ideology of madness. Or if you've listened to this podcast at IoMGeek.com, that's IoMGeek.com. And, tons of stuff. I post all my videos and things like that. As we near Horror Nights, you'll be getting written articles and things like that on that website as well as my other podcast, Funny Books with Aaron and Paulie. We just celebrated 8 years of weekly comic book discussion podcasting. So check that out.
I don't have much to plug. You guys if you're interested, check out our YouTube channel, View from the Cheap Seats. We've kind of gone into slow and low mode lately, where it's just more anything but theme park mode. But that's what we got going on. That's what's happening.
Well, There's
not much to plug on this end.
Well, good episode, guys. Considering there's been no real updates of Halloween Horror Nights, I think we had about a bunch to chat about. Make sure to hit us up at Four Hauntsmen on Twitter, fourhauntsmen@gmail.com. Am I right, Drew?
Yes.
And of course, all of us on Twitter, IoMGeek.com, YouTube, all that stuff. Leave us comments, feedback, ideas for future episodes. And other than that, I think we're good. We'll talk to you guys next time.
All right. Great talking, guys.